Hi folks, so we've got a couple of algebra starters today, but remember for the whole week this week we're going to be working on fractions, so we're going to be doing number work, okay? But I want to keep ticking over in your brains what we've been doing, because we spent a few weeks on the algebra, on the brackets and factorising, and I don't want that to fall out your brains through not getting used. Okay, so let's have a look then. First one, factorising. So remember our three things to look at when we're factorising. First thing is you're looking for a common factor. Well, let's have a look. Have we got a common factor here? We don't, so it's not a common factor. The second thing you look for is a difference of two squares. So looking at this, that is a squared thing, because that's t squared. This 100u squared is 10u squared. So this is a difference of two squares. So that goes into two brackets with t at the beginning of the brackets, 10u at the end, and a plus and a minus. Okay, so that's that one done. And then the second one, have a look again. Have we got a common factor across all these terms? And we don't. Is it a difference of two squares? Well, it's not, because there are three terms, so it's not two anythings. So the next thing we need to look at is it a trinomial that will go into two brackets? Okay, and it is that, so that's where we're headed with this one. So remember the steps. We write our two brackets, we fill in the beginning of the brackets, we write down the factors of the third term. We look at the sign of the third term, which is minus, which means that the signs in the brackets are different to each other. So we've got one plus and one minus. Then we're needing to look at this times this and this times this. And what we need to make there is plus 5x. Okay, so looking at 1 and 14, we can't make 5 out of 1 and 14, so it's not going to be that pair. So it's got to be the 2 and the 7. And we want to make plus 5x, which means that the bigger number has to go with the plus. So we need a 7 there and a 2 there. And if we just multiply out those two bits and check, then 7 times x is 7x. X times negative 2 is negative 2x. And 7x take away 2x gives us the plus 5x. So that's our correct answer there, x plus 7 times x minus 2. Okay, all right, so looking at what we're doing at the moment, we're working on fractions. Yesterday we looked at mixed numbers and improper fractions, and we're going to use that a little bit today when we go on to multiplying fractions. Okay, so multiplying fractions. Now, I've said here that these are examples using cancelling within the question. Okay, so when we multiply fractions together, you can multiply the tops together. So 2 times 3 is 6. And then multiply the bottoms together. 3 times 4 is 12. And then you simplify your answer. So when we're simplifying, oops, Daisy. Then we look for a times table where we'll find 6 and 12. We'll find the biggest number we can. So that'll be the 6 times table, has both of those in. So we divide top and bottom by 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1. 12 divided by 6 is 2. So the answer is a half. However, we don't need to wait until after we've done the multiplying to do our simplifying or our cancelling. Okay, so remember the top of a fraction is called the numerator and the bottom is called the denominator, but I tend to refer to top and bottom as we're going along because I don't want you in the middle of a question trying to work out, do I mean the top or do I mean the bottom? Okay, so we know that numerator is top, we know that denominator is bottom, but it's easier to say top and bottom. Okay, so what we can do, so this is just the same question as I had here. I've just written it here to show you a different way of working it out. Okay, so the way that we cancelled when we got our answer here We can do that here before we even get our answer, but we can cancel, when fractions are multiplying, you can cancel anything on the top with anything on the bottom. Okay, it doesn't need to be within the same fraction. So what we can see when we look at these pair of fractions is we've got a 3 on the bottom here and a 3 on the top here. So they will cancel. So we can divide top and bottom by 3. That gives us 1 and 1. We can also look at the 2 and the 4. They'll cancel because they're both in the 2 times table. So that's 1, 2, and that's 2 2s. So now we've done our cancelling. We do our top times top. So now we've got 1 times 1 is 1. And on the bottom, we're left with 1 times 2 is 2. So if you do your simplifying before you work out your answer, you don't have to simplify your answer. So if we just have a look down the questions that we're going to be working through, I mean, look at this one. We don't really want to be working out 16 times 7 and 7 times 8 and finding the answers and then trying to simplify those big numbers that we're going to get. Okay, so if you can get into the habit when it's more simple numbers of cancelling across the multiplication sign before you work out the answer, it's going to make life a lot easier for you. Okay, so when we're looking at the second one, let's have a look and see is that because they're multiplying, we can cancel anything on the top with anything on the bottom. So if we have a look, within each fraction, the 5 and the 9 won't cancel, and the 3 and the 10 won't cancel. So we need to look across the multiplication sign and see if anything will cancel. And we can see if we look at the 5 and the 10, then that gives us, if we divide by 5, we've got 1 and 2. And then looking at the 3 and the 9, they're both in the 3 times table. So we've got 1 3 there and 3 3s there. So altogether, top times top, 1 times 1 is 1. And 3 times 2 is 6 on the bottom. And that just saves us having bigger numbers. If we'd worked it out without doing the cancelling, we would have had 15 on the top and 90 on the bottom. And we would have divided top and bottom by 5 probably to start with. And then if you divide by 5, you get 3 over 18. And then they're both in the 3 times table. So you'd get 1/6. But by simplifying early in the question, you're making your job a little bit easier. So we'll do that with the third one. So 3/8 times 4/5. So within each fraction, there is no cancelling. So we can look across the multiplication sign and see if there's anything on the top that can cancel with anything on the bottom. So the 3 and the 5 don't cancel, but the 4 and the 8 do. They're both in the 4 times table. So we've got 1 4 and 2 4s. Nothing else will cancel. So we've got 3 times 1 is 3 and 2 times 5 is 10. And that fraction won't cancel. So if you do all your cancelling properly before you work out your answer, then you'll find that your answer is already in its simplest form. Okay, the last one here just now. So again, look within each fraction. There's no cancelling to be done. But then if we look across the multiplication sign at top and bottom, we can see first of all, we've got a 7 here and a 7 here. And then if you look at the 16 and the 8, they're both in the 8 times table. So 16 is 2 times 8 and 8 is 1 times 8. So you get 2 times 1 is 2 over 1 times 1 is 1. But remember, 2 over 1 means 2 divided by 1. And 2 divided by 1 is just 2. So when you get an answer that's over 1, you can just lose the 1. Okay? So that was giving you a little bit of practice at cancelling within the question before you work out your answer. Now we need to move on to multiplying mixed numbers. Okay? Now, we can't just do somehow 1 times 6/7 and then combine this 3/4. That doesn't make any sense to us. So what we need to do when we've got mixed numbers is change the mixed numbers into improper fractions. So we're going to change this into an improper fraction like we were doing yesterday. So remember, the way to do that is you do this times this and add that to go on the top. So 4 times 1 is 4, add 3 is 7, and the bottom of the fraction stays the same. And then we're multiplying this by 6/7. So we'll have a look and see what cancelling, if any, can be done here. So we can see we've got a 7 on the top and the bottom. And then looking at the 6 and the 4, they're both in the 2 times table. So 6 is 3 times 2 and 4 is 2 times 2. So altogether, we've got 1 times 3 is 3, 2 times 1 is 2, so our answer is 3/2. Now, that is an improper fraction, as you can see, and sometimes the question might tell you to give your answer as a mixed number. So if we needed to do that, remember what we do is top divided by bottom. So 3 divided by 2 is 1, and you've got 1 left over, and remember the bottom number doesn't change. So that's from yesterday's work, a couple of bits in there. Okay, next question, we can see here we've got 2 mixed numbers, so we're going to have to change each of these into improper fractions before we can do anything else. So improper fractions, remember you do 3 times 4 is 12, add the 1 makes 13, and the bottom doesn't change. Then we get 5 times 1 is 5, add 4 is 9. Then let's look to see if we've got any cancelling here. Well, we can't do anything with the 13 and the 5, but the 9 and the 3 are both in the 3 times table. So dividing these by 3, there's 3 3s there and 1 3 there. So altogether, we've got 13 times 3, which is 39 on the top. We've got 1 times 5 on the bottom. So it's 39/5, or 39/5. When we change that into a mixed number, remember we do 39 divided by 5 is 7. And 7 5s are 35, so we've got 4 left over. So it's 7 4/5. Okay. And then the last one of this type, the 2/7 is fine, we'll leave that as it is. And we need to change the 4 and 1/5, so we do 5 times 4 is 20, add 1 is 21/5. And then looking to see if we can cancel, we've got 21 and 7 there, they're both in the 7 times table. So that's 3 7s, and that's 1 7. So altogether there, we've got 2 3s are 6, 1 5 is 5, so we've got 6/5. 6 divided by 5 is 1, and you've got 1 left over, so it's 1 1/5. Okay, and the kind of question that you might need to answer to use this techniques are find the area of the rectangle, for example. So remember, area is length times breadth for a rectangle. So the length is 2 1/4 centimetres, and the breadth is 1 2/3 centimetres. So if we're going to multiply those two mixed numbers together, we need to change them to improper fractions first. So we're going to do 4 times 2 is 8, add 1 is 9. And then 3 times 1 is 3, add 2 is 5. Okay, so looking to see if we can cancel within the fractions. 9 and 4 won't cancel, and 5 and 3 won't either. So we look across the multiplication sign and see if there's any cancelling to be done there. And we can see that 9 and 3 are both in the 3 times table. So if we divide 9 and 3 by 3, 9 divided by 3 is 3, 3 divided by 3 is 1. So when we work out our answer, we've got 3 times 5 is 15 on the top, and 4 times 1 is 4 on the bottom. And then if we do 15 divided by 4, that gives us 3 whole ones, 3 left over. So the answer is 3 3/4 square centimetres, because it's an area. Okay, so you've got practice questions to do. If you just have a quick go through those, make sure you're okay, and give me a shout if there's anything you're not sure about. And then tomorrow we're going to go on to dividing fractions. So I'll see you then.